all things Astros with your hosts, sports writer Jeff Balke and Astros broadcaster and former third baseman Jeff Blum. Now, here's Balke and Blummer.
What's up, H-Town and Astros fans everywhere? Worth noting that we are actually ranked in the top 100 baseball podcasts in UK, South Korea, Austria. We've been in the top 100 in Australia. So thanks so much for everybody listening all around the globe. I know there's a ton of Astros fans all over the place, so happy that you guys could be with us. Welcome to episode 34, the greatest number in Houston sports history.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Of the Believe in Astros podcast on the Believe Podcasting Network. I'm Jeff Balke, my partner, the relaxed off-season golfer, who I'm sure is never annoyed when his ball misses a fairway.
Yeah,
Blum,
never.
are you Jeff Blum? Blummer, are you are you a frustrated golfer, or are you someone who just takes it all in stride?
My attitude, my nature, and I'm not sure if it's growing up in California or whatever it is, but I've definitely got a little more of a laid-back attitude about it. But at the same time, being an ex-professional athlete, I have I have an idea of who I should be and want to be. And when I don't raise to that level, yes, I do get frustrated. I'm not a club thrower. I'm not a club
I was going to say, have you ever winged one into the woods?
No. I have not. I've tossed a golf ball off the, once I finally get the ball in the hole, I'll fire the ball into the water every once in a while, but I'm not a club thrower. Obviously you would anticipate me having a very creative vernacular when I do get upset. I do.
Well, I have a very creative vernacular on just a random daily basis. So I feel for you. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and of course YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe to keep up with us. And give us a follow on Twitter if you dare, at Believe in Astros. Find me at Jeff Balke, Blummer's at Blummer27. Send us comments, questions, holiday movie recommendations, but please no Hallmark films. And also, send us your Spotify Wrapped top tunes. I'd like to know what some of you guys have if you're a Spotify users. Mine were so bizarre because they were all skewed towards the one playlist that I use for working out. So it was like every year it's a little weird because most of the time when I'm listening to it, I'm not picking songs. I'll listen to a bunch of jazz music or something when I'm cooking or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So this year it was all hard rock music. It's just a full list of just hard rock, balls to the wall, because it was all for working out.
But isn't that good news? I mean, that means you're working out a lot, so good for you.
That's true. That is absolutely true. That playlist gets worn out for sure. So, Blummer, you look bundled up this morning. I know we talked. It's cold. Is it cold in your house right now?
Yeah, I woke up today. Our bedroom is typically a little bit warmer for whatever reason. I don't know if it's a location in the house or lack of ventilation or whatever it is. But, I woke up, went outside of our bedroom to wish our girls a great day at school, and, man, it was chilly. And I threw on the base layer of the Cadence Bank Houston Open base layer, and then I just couldn't handle it, so I went straight dude wrap and went with my Jeff Lebowski look because I'm freezing in here.
I was going to say, you look like you're ready for the ski lodge.
Oh,
at any minute.
A little hot toddy.
Exactly. Yeah. No, 100%. I don't want to ski. I don't want to actually ski. I'm not crazy enough to do that. I just want to hang out in the lodge. That's my...
I'll give it a day or two, but we're actually going to go take the girls skiing, I should say, this Christmas break. And yes, I will be in this similar outfit with a little, hopefully something that I can just pinch the handle on and just take sips out of.
Exactly. That is a very good plan. Quick note for our sponsor, BetOnline. Basketball is back, and BetOnline remains your number one source for all sports betting needs this season. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, or even golf. I'm very curious what the over-under is on the return of Deshaun Watson this weekend against the Texans. Man. It's going to be super weird. I was going to make a bad joke about the over-under on the number of massage therapists he'll contact, but I'm just going to leave that alone. Maybe I already made that joke.
Is that like a Navy ship pulling into port?
It's like, what is it? They call it Navy Week in New York. When they just pull in and
it's Deshaun Week.
Oh, God. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use promo code BLEAV to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, Blummer, we have a lot to talk about today, oddly enough. This very first day of December. The hot stove is absolutely smoking right now. We are, by the way, because it's December 1st, we're roughly 75 days from the opening of spring training. How about that for you?
Think about that. I was reading, and there's some Twitter accounts like, oh my gosh, the hot stove's heating up early. I'm like, dude, there isn't much time. This hot stove better come in hot.
No, I mean it better be like a Viking range because it's like a pizza oven because we're like we're not even 3 months away from spring training, which is just
unreal,
nuts. And of course, the winter meetings starting next week in San Diego, where a lot of things happen. The last time I was in San Diego, Blummer, my wife used to be the editor for a magazine here in town. We did a story on a couple that owns a spa outside of San Diego, like a health spa, one of those places where you they torture you in the morning and then give you massages in the afternoon. And so we
went down before we build you up,
Right. Oh, it's crazy. And we went for 3 days to this thing. And I mean, it's where like Oprah goes, right? It's like one of those. And the week after we were there, all of the owners of the major league teams and their wives were taking it over for a week because it was right before the San Diego, when the All-Star game was held in San Diego.
Oh, nice.
And I remember thinking, I'm here the week before the owners of Major League Baseball are here. Like, this is super surreal. As I'm like hiking up a mountain and cursing my existence. But yeah, the San Diego look, the hot stove. If it's going to warm up anytime, it's going to happen in the next week. I think the winter meetings start on Monday or Tuesday, and especially with Jim Crane sort of running the show at the moment, And speaking of that, Jose Abreu. So we have talked about it on here repeatedly about how we felt like that was sort of the number one target, or at least one of our, the guys high on our list. And the Astros go out and get him 3 years, reasonable amount of money when you consider about 50, almost 60 million, which for a guy like him, a little less than what Rizzo got, for example. And a reasonable number of years. He's 35, will be 36 in January. Talk about what this is going to mean. I mean, we can talk about the analytics and how the FWAR for the lineup went from like 29 to like 33 with one addition. Yeah. But talk about what this is going to do for the Astros on the field. We can discuss off the field too, because obviously he's a really good dude and a big time leader in the clubhouse. But what does this mean for the Astros on the field and in their lineup?
Yeah, and this is nothing to take away from Yuli Gurriel because he is beloved. He is a phenomenal human, like we know, and he played an extremely good first base. Yet, at this given moment, Jose Abreu, like we've been talking about, is a definite upgrade. And it's kind of interesting that his contract number was lower than Rizzo, who the Astros were out there trying to acquire. So I think it's great that they got a little bit better deal and arguably maybe a better hitter in Jose Abreu as far as production is concerned. Yeah. I know that the home runs maybe at 15 are down a little bit, but we love playing this analytic game like you're talking about, and he may have had 22 last year if he'd have been playing in full-time in Minute Maid Park.
I was going to say, everybody talks about that. If you look at the hits that he had, it would have been 22 here as opposed to 15 in Chicago.
So there's a ballpark factor that's mixed in there, and then you insert him into a lineup where he's not expected to be the MVP, and I think a little more relaxed, more opportunistic Jose Abreu is going to make him a better hitter. And I think he spoke about it in his press conference saying, I wanted to be in a family that wanted to win. And this is definitely that family atmosphere. They're going to embrace him. He's got a great rapport with a lot of the Latin guys already, and he's going to mix right in. But I do think that this makes this better. Your F4 number that you brought up too is amazing, because not only does it go from, the mid-20s into the low 30s, 34. I've even seen as high as 36 in some of the numbers that they calculate. And what that does is, surprisingly, puts this offense better than 2019.
I know.
And that 2019 Astro team, I remember TK and I comparing it to the Bronx Bombers of the early or the late 1920s, early 1930s of the New York Yankees. And when you start to do that and then add it to the pitching staff the Astros already have, good Lord, if I'm around the league right now, I'm going, man, these sons of guns, they're good. They're defending World Series champions, and they just added a phenomenal talent in Jose Abreu. I think a lot of the question around Jose is going to be defensively, because that's where Yuli really shined.
It really is. Just quickly, I know that we have tons of baseball nerds listening, but we throw out terms like F4. WAR is wins above replacement. It means basically how good a player is if he was replaced by the average baseball player with the average number of statistics. And F-WAR is related to Fangraph's calculation of that. It's a website. And B-WAR is related to Baseball Reference. They calculate their wins above replacement slightly differently. But basically what it means is how much better is that player than the average Major League Baseball player at his same position. And, Abreu, I think one of the things that's remarkable is he's going to be batting sixth, probably. I mean, talk about a luxury. I mean,
a $20 million MVP guy hitting sixth.
Yeah, it's just and I here's something that I kind of think about too. And you just brushed about. I'm losing my mind. You just spoke about it briefly. Was his influence in the clubhouse? He is considered a great clubhouse guy. He is considered a leader. And I'm interested to see what his influence is going to be, his impact is going to be on Yordan Alvarez. Because Yuli, obviously, both from Cuba, Jose Abreu is also from Cuba. Yuli obviously has some influence, but this is a guy that has almost a direct apples-to-apples comparison with Yordan in terms of his skill set, in terms of the way, he swings the bat. And they're both from Cuba. Obviously 10 years apart in age. I'm going to be real curious to see if he has an impact on Yordan just in general. Like Yordan needs any help at this point in his career. But I would be very curious to know if, because they're both from Cuba and they share that culture, I wonder if there's going to be some rubbing off on that.
I'm actually kind of curious too, because Yordan Alvarez, already in my eyes, is wise beyond his years as far as being a hitter when he's inside the box. And I think that he's still relatively young in his career, just in the sense of playing a full season, getting adapted to playing more left field, getting adapted to how other teams are going to be adjusting to him. And you had a guy like Yuli Gurriel and Aledmus Diaz in that clubhouse who are from Cuba, had that common bond and that relationship to where they could have some serious conversations. Or maybe you could approach a Yordan and say, hey, you can't do it this way. You've got to try and do it this way, kind of thing. And I think that's where Yuli kind of established that foundation and that relationship. And maybe you have Jose Abreu move in and just kind of reestablish that fact that you have another Cubano friend in that clubhouse to where we can have that conversation. And you think about the career that Jose Abreu's had. He's achieved that ultimate success. Granted, it was in a shortened season with the MVP trophy. Now he wants to go out there and win. And I think bringing some of that mentality will help Yordan Alvarez. I think it's going to help guys throughout that lineup too, because as successful as the Astros have been with the Jose Altuves, the Alex Bregmans, the Jeremy Peñas, and Kyle Tuckers, I think still getting some of these great players in the same clubhouse, you're gonna watch this player, the Jose Abreu, come in, and you're gonna go, that's something new, that's something different. I want to try that too. Or you gravitate towards it and you start to have these conversations. So that's the information you're looking to bring in. But having the stability and understanding on how to play a 162-game season, when you have more input, I think that helps you in the long run. And I think that's where Yordan is still trying to understand how to get through a 162 game season. And, we talk about the personality of Jose Abreu. We talk about the statistics. He also knows how to play a very long season. And he's a guy he's a workhorse in the sense that he wants to be on the field every day.
And very durable.
That's a great word for it. Durable is probably the more the greater word in baseball. Is in order to put up great numbers, you have to be durable. And he definitely brings that.
Well, and also, it should be noted that this is the first major addition to the Astros lineup that they have made from outside the organization, really since Brantley, probably. Most of their big additions have, if they've made them, have been through the pitching staff. You've seen with Greinke and then Verlander and so forth, and relievers like Presley and Hector Neris, people like that. We have not seen a big addition or change to their lineup in a long time. Most of their gets have either been, minor, utility players, things like that, or they've been guys that were built through the organization. So this is kind of a change for the Astros that they're going out there and getting a bat to add to that lineup. I've got to figure it's going to add some juice to the players who are already there, because they're like, man, we know we're getting somebody who legit makes contact, who legit hit home runs. Not just someone we hope will be good, like Jeremy Pena, for example, or Yuli when he was originally brought in, but someone we know has a track record. That's got to be exciting for guys in the lineup in the same way it would be for a pitching staff that added an ace pitcher.
Yeah, well, first of all, for a team that is coming off a World Series championship,
right.
And then you send the message that we're going to go out and still get guys if we can and improve our team. And I think that's what you want to see if you're a Houston Astro player is, are we making moves that are going to improve our team and continue the success in this quote-unquote window that is open right now for them to go out there and win? So that definitely speaks volumes to the credibility in the clubhouse where you're going, okay, Jim, Baggy, whoever it is making these calls and making these moves definitely wants to go out there and continue to win. Same thing with signing Rafael Montero to a 3-year deal, as you're saying, we need to solidify our bullpen. Okay, we've got our guy for the next 3 years. We've got our first baseman for the next 3 years. But at the same time, we've seen that mentality of signing a ton of free agents falter in the New York Yankees and some of these other teams where they don't achieve the success that the Astros have. So as great as it is, I think they need to temper it a little bit and understand that drafting, developing, staying internal and getting some of these guys is the way to continue success. But adding a guy like Jose Abreu is an amazing achievement for them in this offseason where everybody expected, somebody else to maybe take the crown next year. Now it's still, it goes through Houston, but now it's going to be a little bit tougher to go through Houston. And the one big number for me on Jose Abreu, we're stroking him pretty good right here, and is the number that he hits with runners in scoring position. Going through some of these numbers, these two numbers jumped at me. He is a career 311 hitter with runners in scoring position, number one, with 2 outs, 308.
308 with 2 outs?
With 2 outs. And there's really not a clutch number out there that you can quantify. Was this guy clutch? Can he get the big hit? But for me, the RISP number and the 2-out RISP number are the two numbers that you can kind of point to and say, this guy might have a pretty good idea of how to be clutch. And those are great numbers.
I'd be curious to see what that number is 7th inning or after, too. That'd be really interesting to see what those. Yeah, look, there's no denying that Jose Abreu is a huge upgrade for the Astros lineup. What is it? Are they? Do you think they're going to bring Yuli back now? I know that this for a lot of people this hit hard because a lot of people do love Yuli. I do too. Who doesn't love La Pena? But and there's been obviously some talk about maybe a utility role, something like that. I just wonder is that something we think the Astros are going to do, or is he just going to get more money from somebody else?
That's actually an interesting, thought process. Is this is where baseball is extremely hard, and this might be where I'm a little bit jaded, having been an ex-player and been on the receiving side of the business and been on the axe end of the business side of it, where the numbers just don't match up, and I've got to, you've got to let a guy go and move on and pick another guy who is an upgrade. So that's where the tough conversation comes in, because we talked about those those X factors, those intangibles that you can't really quantify with a statistic or an analytic, is what kind of human Yuli is in that clubhouse and what he means to those guys. There's a certain comfort when you see Yuli come through the clubhouse doors and come into the room, that no matter what he's going through, he is going to provide some levity, some positivity, or something extra that is going to make your day a little bit better. And that's what you really can't quantify. But it seems like Jose Abreu will do a good job of trying to fill that role. But at the same time, losing a guy like Yuli will probably have more of an impact emotionally than it will physically on the field. And that's where, as a management team, you have to decide what is the best move for the team. And if you really want to get into it, and again, I love Yuli. I think he is great. I think that he has one of the better swings I've seen in the big leagues.
Yeah.
Plays a phenomenal first base. The humble pie going from third base to first base and becoming a Gold Glover.
Right.
Exponential. The guy has been fantastic. He has cemented himself as one of the best first basemen in Astros history. But this might be the time. And if you think about him being a utility guy, he's a corner guy. He's a third baseman. He's a first baseman. He only hits right-handed. Some of those numbers, some of those splits didn't look good last year. How are they going to translate in 2023?
Yeah.
Those are some of the analytic sides that you're going to have to look at when you're creating your ball club. And when you think about building a utility player and having a guy that can move around, he doesn't play shortstop. You've got to be hyper-athletic as far as a utility guy is, and I'm not sure that Yuli is that guy. And then you add the price tag to it and say, could we have a David Hensley, Mauricio Dubon for $2 million or less, or do we sign a Yuli Gurriel at $5 to $8 million? The cost effectiveness, and that's just the business part of it. Unfortunately,
it is.
And I know that Yuli probably still thinks that he provides value at first base, and there may be a team out there that offers him a contract to go play first base.
Yeah, you definitely have to wonder that. And you're right. The Astros still have the ability to build some within. Like we've talked about Pedro Leon on here. He's played center. He can play short. Hensley's another good one. Mauricio Dubon. These are all guys that can play a lot of different roles, and it definitely feels like that might leave Yuli on the outside looking in, which is unfortunate. But
unfortunately,
yeah, it is, because he's a great guy, and we'd hate to see him go. But here's the other thing, though. Jim Crane has said they're not done, and the winter, like we said, the winter meetings are next week. There are some names flying around out there that, frankly, are. Wow. I mean, the number one name right now. I mean, we've seen Brandon Nimmo, which is one that I'm like, Brandon Nimmo would look really good in this lineup, right? But the one that's flying around is Wilson Contreras, and
that's
rumor.
That's a big get.
It's a huge get. Now, the rumor is that Contreras would be essentially the third catcher, and would spend time in left field and DH because he's played left field previously in his rookie season. He's really athletic, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. Yeah. Contreras is a huge get. Again, we go back to that FWAR number. I saw somebody post that their FWAR, I think it was 28 last year, and then with Abreu it jumped to like 32, and with Contreras it would jump to like 36 or something crazy. And think about this for a minute. Imagine if Contreras is batting seventh in this lineup.
Who's pitching to this lineup?
And then you say, okay, well, we'll play Chas McCormick in center field, or maybe we have Pedro Leon up, and your weakest link is Martin Maldonado. It's just, to me, I'm having a hard time talking, because when I think about that lineup mixed with this pitching staff, I'm not sure who. First of all, it's hard enough to score runs on the Astros now as it is.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about then having to really keep pace with a team that is just one bat after another, and Wilson Contreras, and the Astros do have money. They still have like $35 million under the luxury tax. That includes the numbers that it would take to re-sign guys, expected returns for guys who are in arbitration. So
yeah.
Thoughts? I don't know what else to say. Good Lord.
As you're talking, I'm sitting here doing the same thing you're doing, and it's like, okay, Maldi's behind the plate. Wilson Contreras in Minute Maid Park. Obviously, you can hide guys in left field at Minute Maid Park, so he's going to play a majority of those games at left field at home. If not, on the road in Boston. I'm just trying to think of some of these places. But And then you have Wilson Contreras in left, and that means that your DH is Yordan Alvarez.
Yep.
And like you said, we already talked about Abreu moving into the 6th spot in that lineup, and then you move Wilson Contreras to the 7th spot, and then you've got Maldi and Chaz at 7 and 8, and those guys could explode at any minute. But I can only imagine, and I think that's what we're starting to see possibly in the West, if not some of these American League teams, is you've got, in order to compete with the Astros, you have to go out and get pitching. And I'm not sure that there's enough pitching to go out there and compete with the lineup that is throwing out a 36 F-WAR. That's unimaginable to me, because even if you catch, let's say you catch an Altuve and a Yordan Alvarez at a bad spot. Yeah. Oh, damn, I got to face Jeremy Pena, Alex Bregman, Jose Abreu, Wilson Contreras. I mean, what the heck, man? I mean, and Kyle Tucker is going to be in that lineup too. I mean, what? Right. I mean, for me as an offensive, guy growing up and playing in the big leagues, obviously I appreciate the hell out of the pitching staff because they're fun to watch. But if you tell me in 2023 that I get to watch Astros baseball with a thunderous lineup like that, right. Oh my gosh. I mean, I might as well just sit in the booth with pom-poms on.
Last year, the highest ranked F-WAR for offense, just offense, never mind defense, was the Dodgers, and they were at 32.9.
So they could beat that by four wins?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the stats
that was a 111 win team.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. And by all reports, by the way, and these are from legitimate sources, not from just like random guys on Twitter, are saying that the Astros are dead serious about signing Contreras and that they're meeting with him at the winter meetings. So he is someone that is 100% on their radar. I mean, I'm fascinated by in a way, Plummer, I feel like this is it's almost poetic justice to me, because it's
I've thought about this too. I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, because it's like all the nonsense that the Astros have taken. This is a little bit like piling on. It's a little Evil Empire-ish, and I'm not going to hate it at all. But it's a little bit like, all right, we proved that we can win without any of the sign stealing nonsense. We proved that we could do this consistently over years. We won the World Series again, and now we're going to go out and get some incredible bats to add to this lineup. And by the way, we could let Justin Verlander go because we have so many pitchers, the vast majority of which are homegrown guys or guys they found in Venezuela and in Mexico in the case of Jose Urquidy. I mean, we've used the term embarrassment of riches many times over the course of this season.
This is next level.
This is next level. I mean, this is, first of all, they're already incredible in their pitching staff and their bullpen. This is just, now you're adding the lineup to it. This could be, I mean, if they are able to stay healthy, and of course that's always the great, that's always the great equalizer. Is health. But if they were to stay healthy, and they do add Wilson Contreras, and this becomes like their lineup, this could be one of the great, who knows what they do in the postseason. This could literally be 111, 112, 115 win team, just simply by virtue of the fact that they have some of the best players in baseball playing for them. It's just crazy to think that, but it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, it's not too often that we've watched a lot of baseball. You and I have been, on this planet for, good 50, almost 50 plus years now.
Yep.
And we've watched baseball for an extended amount of time.
Yes.
And we've all witnessed the Atlanta Braves. We've witnessed the New York Yankees of the late 90s. Yep. And just some of these, the dynasty word that keeps getting thrown out. But how often have you actually seen a World Series team go into an offseason, arguably, let's just imagine that you're going to lose your ace Cy Young Award winner. Think about that. You're losing the number 1A in your rotation, and you're not panicked. But you go out and continue to bolster a lineup that is going to go out there and compete and give you the ability to go out there. It's unbelievable to me. I don't think I've ever seen this, but you're right in the embarrassment of riches and the idea of, we just won. We've now shifted the idea that, this organization can only win because they get signs, which is wrong and has been wrong for years. And now now you're seeing players go, I want to be a part of that. And I think that's what's interesting about the free agent market is now that you got guys on the outside going, they're doing something over there. I want to be a part of that. I want to go win. And I think that's what's great to see that shift, because earlier I think it might have been like, ooh, that's contaminated. I don't want to go over there. Now they're going, oh man, that's a load. Okay, they just confirmed that was a load of junk. Now I want to go over there and be a part of it. I want to go get my ring. You're seeing guys with heavy individual accolades all of a sudden going, I want to go over there and win.
Well, it reminds me of the NBA. In that regards, this reminds me of like
super teams,
yeah, it's like Kevin Durant joining the Golden State Warriors, right?
That's a great comparison. Yeah.
It has that vibe to it. But I think one of the great things that's really developed here, because in baseball it is quite different. You add one guy, it doesn't instantly change everything. But I think one of the things is the Astros have not only developed a great squad of players, right? Not only and a lot of them from the inside, a lot of them from the minor leagues and places like that, but they have built an organization that you look at now and players look at from the outside and they're like, okay, these guys aren't messing around. They're legit about what they're doing. And look, as much as people would question the Patriots' approach to things, there's no fooling with the results. I mean, you can't sit there and say and their results were built from an organization that knew how to build both from within and from outside, and was willing to take care of guys who took care of them. It's a remarkable kind of thing to talk about when we're talking about Houston sports, because I've been in Houston sports for my entire life, and this is not something I've ever seen. In Houston sports before. This is not this kind of franchise earth-shattering kind of maneuvers even after a World Series. Hell, we've only had one World Series and 2 national basketball championships in this city. So it's rare already. But then when you're saying, oh yeah, we won and we're going to get better. Yeah.
They're not satisfied. They're going to go. They want more. And you've got to get, these moves, Jim Crane, no GM, the guts to let go a James Click in a situation like this.
And be like, well, we'll hire somebody in January.
Yeah, and there's no panic. There's just the idea of we're going to go out there and continue to reload and go out there and attack the World Series championship. It wasn't, 2016, the Cubs win the World Series in 2016 and they disappear. 2019, the Washington Nationals win the World Series championship, completely going to tank and go in last place. And now you have the sustained greatness and the idea of how to go out and do that and maintain a payroll that allows you the ability to do that. You got to give Jim Crane a lot of credit. And he came into a town here in Southeast Texas, Friday Night Lights, football. Like you said, James Harden, the Rockets, during that whole time that he moved into the baseball organization, he has flipped Houston into a baseball city, and he has run with it.
It doesn't hurt either that the Texans are a total dumpster fire at the same time. The return of Deshaun Watson, it's just, you couldn't write anything worse for the Texans. And on the flip side, you almost couldn't write a better script than the Astros. And
they're the off-season conversation. They have overwhelmed. Normally it's football. Now you've got, oh my gosh, what is Jim going to do next?
Speaking of that, look, one last thing I want to dig into before we close it out. So Bagwell has obviously become a kind of a key role in this. Now, you know him. You guys know each other some, and so I'm not going to dig into your relationship with Baggy, but I will say it's pretty fascinating the fact that he has become, I don't want to say the voice on Jim Crane's shoulder exactly, but he's definitely become a pretty significant advisor. He went to Miami to sort of help close out that deal with Jose Abreu. I think his comments the other day about getting away from analytics some have raised a few eyebrows amongst a number of people around baseball and certainly here in Houston. What do you make of all of that? Setting aside, Bagwell's obviously a guy that people love. He's beloved here because of not only what he's done on the field, but he's a good dude and he's funny. Obviously, when he's been on the broadcast with you guys, he's been really engaging. Fans enjoy it. What do you take? What do you sort of make of sort of his role right now within the organization?
Well, he's had to earn it. He's worked himself after that Hall of Fame year that he had. He's really worked himself into the good graces of the organization, and credit the organization for giving him that opportunity. Sure. But he is obviously fully invested. And what I mean by that is he wants to be in talking to these guys. He wants to be talking to Jim. He wants to win. So you've got this veteran player, Hall of Fame player, who has an idea of how to play the game, what it takes to play the game, and then you start to have him start to evaluate talent. And to his credit, he's traveling around to a lot of these minor league teams and getting his eyes on these guys. So the combination of wanting to win, putting out the effort, has earned him the right to speak to Jim about some of these players and what could make this team better. And that being said, going to the visit to Miami, this happens a lot in Major League Baseball where you start to court these guys, whether it be a free agent or a number one draft pick. You'll send not necessarily an ambassador of the organization, but somebody in the organization who can float in there and sit back, listen to all the numbers get thrown around, and then lean in on the player and say, hey, this organization has established greatness. This is a great city. Tell them what it's like to live there. Tell them where the restaurants are. Tell them about the tax breaks. Just some of the intricacies of playing in that city and what it means to be a Houston Astro. And that's what Baggy flew in and did. He provided that extra oomph that says, you know what, Altuve's a great clubhouse guy. This is what's great about this ballpark. This is what's great about this city. I know this guy that could hook you up with that. All these, these external factors that may sway the player to come to that city. But for Baggy, he's old school. Yeah, he's never been a guy that has embraced the analytics. You can hear him on our broadcast because I like the numbers, and I think they tell a good story and maybe back up what my eyes are telling me. Right. But Baggy is definitely a feel guy, and it's just you take everything in context and how it was said. I think just the timing of it. If he said this a year ago, even 6 months ago, if he says that about the analytics, you're going, okay, I get it. But after a World Series championship, you're like, oh my gosh, why did he say that? And it's like blown out of proportion. Right. So, timing has a lot to do with it. But Baggy's never been an analytic guy. He likes to get his hands on things. He likes to see it, feel it. And that's just how he grew up. Now there's some of us like us who like the guy and say, this guy's going to be great. And then we can back it up with a number and really put some contextual identity to this thing and really prove that this is a good move.
Well, I think you need both in an organization.
That's what every organization is trying to find right now.
Yeah, you need a blend, as they like to refer to it now, the blend of analytics and feel. I had mentioned before that I had interviewed on numerous occasions Daryl Morey, and he and I sat down one time. I was working on a book, and we sat down and talked about analytics and what it means and sort of why it's important and everything. Because obviously he's one of the first guys to really bring it to basketball. And one of the things that he said is it doesn't determine what's going to happen, obviously. He goes, games are played by humans. But what it does is help to give you some predictive ideas of what might happen and give you ways to sort of plan for those occasions. And his belief is that it's most effective in baseball because you do have such specific situations. And he thinks it honestly probably shouldn't be used very much at all in like football, where everything is based on timing and a bunch of guys working together at once. So I think even a guy like Morey, who was who's a super hardcore analytics guy, didn't suggest that it should be like the be-all, end-all. He said ultimately this is about... He said what it's really about is putting players in the best position to be successful and then allowing them to execute that. And he goes, if you can find numbers that help explain that and help say, hey, if you change this part of your game just slightly, it will cause you to be more successful. That's what it really is about. And I think people get worked up by the numbers. Look, everybody wants to believe that they're nerdy enough that they can be the next nerd on the block, right? And of course we've seen success stories like that. There are guys who now are general managers, assistant general managers who started out as interns and worked their way up, and we all love those stories. But the reality is that baseball is still played by players. Yeah. And Bagwell's right. It's not played by computers. And so if the computers can help you, play the game better, then, hey, that's great. And I don't think anybody should be freaking out about that. I do find it interesting that suddenly we've discovered that Bagwell has such a role. I mean, maybe you already knew, but I think a lot of people didn't really realize that Jeff Bagwell had such a substantial role in the organization. It's pretty fascinating, really. Good for the Astros if he's doing a good job.
Yep.
I think it's fantastic. All right, Blummer, what do you got going this weekend, buddy? Are you playing golf?
I'll probably end up playing golf at some point, but I just want to point out that this week, like you just said earlier in the podcast, has been a great week for Houston sports. You've got the signing of Jose Abreu.
Yes.
You've got the Cougs ranked number one in NCAA basketball, which I absolutely love. Kelvin Sampson making things happen.
My alma mater.
That a baby. And then USA Soccer moving on to the knockout round, which is great to see. And you being a musician, I don't know how you feel about, and you said heavy metal earlier, Metallica. Brand new single just coming out. They announced the world tour. So this has been a great news week. It has Houston, and if you're a metal fan.
Dude, I remember listening to, when I was in my 20s, listening to their first album. There was this guy when I was playing back then, and I was playing in all these hard rock bars back when I was in my early 20s. And there was one place where this guy always used to play stuff for me. He was like, you need to listen to this. And he nailed every single time. And I remember that was the first time I'd heard For Whom the Bell Tolls. I remember thinking, wow, this is strong. So yeah, there's a lot. I mean, look, the news cycle is 20. It used to be 24 hours. Now it's 24 seconds. There's stuff going on every single day. You're right. USA men's soccer, even after that guy took one for the team, let's just say, when you end up in the hospital after having something hit you in the nuts, that's serious.
They probably had to surgically replace it after it got shoved up into his sternum.
I don't think people that was incredible. It was unbelievable, and I'll be honest. I felt queasy for him. I mean, we know what that's like. That ain't good. And then to have him in the hospital being like, I'll be back on Saturday, don't worry. I'm like, these guys are. It's funny for all the soccer guys because they're always flailing and falling all over the place when they don't even get touched. Yet there's just some tough bastards. I mean, I wouldn't want to mess with them. And so, congrats.
First of all, running for 90 minutes sounds terrible. But then you add the contact and he sold himself out to get that goal. He did. And
I read
that will be a legendary replay for decades.
I read somewhere that they run something like 11 miles in every for every match. If they run, it's like 11 miles, dude. Yeah, exactly.
I want to be a goalie.
100%. Why wouldn't you be a goalie? I want to be. Remember the movie Victory? I want to be Sylvester Stallone in Victory. I want to be the guy that stands back there and protects the goal. That's it. And that's, by the way, you've never seen that soccer movie? Go see it. Nazi era soccer with Michael Caine, Sylvester Stallone, Max von Sydow. It's good. Yeah, Pele is in it, for Christ's sake.
Pele's in it. It's strong. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week with a fresh pod and lots more to come on Believe in Astros, brought to you by Bet Online. Again, huge thanks to all our listeners and viewers all across the world. Yes. You guys are awesome. People have been leaving comments on YouTube. Good stuff. Really appreciate it. Make sure to crush those subscribe and like buttons the way Jose Abreu will hammer home runs at Minute Maid next year. And that is so cool to be able to say right now. Yeah. Let's just be honest. Watching the first time he hits one in the Crawford boxes, I'm going to probably leap out of my own Crawford boxers. That was a terrible
there
pun.
You go. And you know that I'm probably going to Crawford box to something out of something. Yeah.
Oh, and you'll be working though, Blummer. Let's
hope so, huh?
Maybe after you get off work.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. Go Astros.